Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to They Do What, where we take ordinary people and look at their not-so-ordinary hobbies. My guest today is Kevin Kutlik, an 8-year veteran of Civil War reenacting who has portrayed both North and South sides in his events, although he has mostly done Confederate, and we're going to talk to him today about the ins and the outs of that. Kevin, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So now, what was the reason that you had for wanting to get into Civil War reenacting?
I got into it at an early age, started learning about the Civil War when I was around 5 years old. My parents took me to Gettysburg, was really fascinated with the troop movements, the landscape of Gettysburg, progressed into me getting into books, coloring books, stuff like that. As I got older, the history that I could learn was more vast, and I realized I wanted to go out there and experience the experience that a soldier would have had between 1861 and 1865.
Cool. Now, I know if I were to do something like that the very first time, I would probably be scared out of my mind. So were you scared, or did you feel comfortable and ready, or what was that like?
It was a little bit of both. I didn't really know what to experience when I went out there. I knew that it was going to be fun. It was something that I wanted to portray. It was very loud, very chaotic. The camping conditions are primitive, to say the least. You're sleeping on the ground with a blanket over top of you. Right. It's not like modern camping at all. A very rewarding experience, but it was very challenging to get through 2 days of, camping out in the woods with no modern amenities at all.
That would be one of the hard parts for me, is trying to stay with just the period items and the period like clothing and everything. I'd be trying to sneak a cell phone or an iPod in there, but that's just me. So how many events would you say that you've participated in?
I've probably done around 50 to 60 events over the course of 8 years of doing this, split up into 2 blocks of 4 years apiece.
Okay, and so where did you travel very far when you did those, or was it mostly like the area of Maryland, Pennsylvania?
I've basically been up and down the East Coast doing events, primarily Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina. The furthest I've went is Georgia, but primarily between North Carolina and Pennsylvania.
That's neat. So one thing, and I'm sure I'm just a broken record for you on this, it always fascinates me that people die in a reenacting, but it's not real guns. How does that work?
So we basically look at it in 2 ways. If we're portraying a particular unit at a particular event, if Unit X took 80% casualties, we would divide that up into our company so that it would appear that we were taking 80% casualties to give the public a view of what that battle might have looked like for that particular unit. For other units or other events where we don't portray a casualty number, it's basically if you level your rifle at me and I'm within range and it looks like I would be hit, it's basically on the honor system that if you fire, I'm probably hit and I'm going to fall.
That is very interesting. What is the most interesting thing that's ever happened to you during a reenactment?
The most interesting thing was back in 1999 at a preservation march at Sailors Creek Preservation March. We would raise money to donate to preserve American Civil War battlefields. The entire weekend was us marching. First day was around 17 miles. We started out in the early morning. It ended up being very sunny, very warm. Then a cold front blew through, thunderstorms. It got very cold. We were soaking wet on mile 13, mile 14. It was just a very interesting thing to go through, to see. That was just one day of us marching, where these soldiers might have had to do this for hundreds of miles, possibly thousands, depending on where their campaign took them.
Right. Now, what's the scariest thing that has ever happened to you during an event?
I had an incident where our lines were being broken by the Federals during one of these scenarios, and as I turned to run away from the battle, a reenactor had leveled his gun and began to pull the trigger, and the hammer came down, and my life kind of stopped right there in a moment. He forgot to put a percussion cap onto his weapon, so there was no spark to ignite the gunpowder in the barrel. If there was a percussion cap that was on there, my face was only about 3 feet from where the muzzle blast would have been, so I probably would not be sitting here today if that would have occurred. So I'm very thankful that he forgot to put that percussion cap on there.
Sounds like it. Well, I'm very glad that you did not, that he forgot his percussion cap, and I'm very grateful that you were able to be here today and give us some of the ins and outs of the Civil War reenacting world.
Absolutely, thank you.
Of course, thank you. And when we come back after our break, we will be having a ventriloquist on the set. He's not the best, but he does okay. I'll give you a hint that it is me.